Greetings. Oh Christ! It's been a. Sorry, this is a handheld video. I haven't set up my stuff again since being away. Just got back the other day, and from a short holiday, and just getting set up again and getting back into the modeling. So I thought I'd give you a very quick rundown of just what I've done today. Before I get onto the engine, I have done a little bit more painting on the right-hand cockpit panel. So we have, so really all I've done today is I've done a little bit of the painting. See if I can get this in focus. Painting detail of the knobs and buttons on the right-hand side, and I've done a little bit of painting here on the oxygen gauge, which I don't think you'll be able to see very well, but yes, just in there. So what is this part here? Well, this is basically the circuit breaker panel. It's where all of the buttons are depressed for activating or providing power to different parts of the systems of the plane, radio for example. And then the red buttons at the top basically correspond, and they shut off the system. The white that I've painted here is like a little information card, I think, which relates to whether it's the circuit breaker panel and the electrics or not. I'm not 100% sure, but let's just show you a picture of that panel. I really do need to get this set up on the clamp. It's hard to do this with just one hand. Bear with me. Here we go. So here's the this is the panel here. So as you can see, you've got the black buttons there, red buttons above it in this panel here. Here is the oxygen indicator, which essentially indicates when the oxygen is flowing, and then we have the breathing, essentially tied in with the breathing of the pilot, and then you have these little cards here. So if you can remember what I've done, get this focus. Okay, so try and hold this steady. There we go. You'll notice, however, that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black buttons and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red buttons, which correspond to each other there. However, on the model itself, you'll see, oh come on, you'll see that whilst there are 4 black buttons, there's only, oh sorry, 5 black buttons, there's only 3, oh okay, it's been a long day, 5 black buttons. Where's my little probe here? There we go. 5 black buttons, there's only 4 red buttons, so there's a bit of a mistake there. I haven't painted these parts here. I could do. See how I go. And oh, frickin' heck, where's the damn thing? There it is. Yeah, so that's basically it. So I painted those today. Whoop-de-doo. Now, the other thing that I just want to show you with my dodgy camera work is the engine. So what I've done is, if you remember the last time, there's the piping was put on from the magneto. So this down here, that was glued on, so I've just painted that. I've painted that. I've actually painted that now with a proper gun metal from Vallejo, 71.072, rather than mixing up my own color. And I've gone over the other part there as well. So you'll also notice that I've dry fitted, they're not glued in, so I've dry fitted in the exhausts. There are 6 on this right hand hang on, right-hand side? Right-hand side. And then there are 6 that go in on the other side as well. So that's the exhaust. Now you notice that they're not painted. So what I want to do is paint them first. So these I can take back out again, as you can see, if I jimmy that little sucker out. There we are. Now what I want to do, the problem with these is that they're attached to the plastic sort of sprue, is that the right word I'm looking for here? I don't know. Here, this is where they're attached. They're attached there, so I had to clip them off there and then sand back to make them smooth, as you can kind of see there. I've sort of sanded that, which meant that I couldn't paint them whilst they're attached and then cut them off and stick them in. They would have been better if they were attached here, but in their infinite wisdom, Trumpeter, they did not do it that way. So we have a few options open to us. One, I glue them all in and then paint them once they've been glued in and stuck down. However, what I've decided I'm going to do instead is, I'll show you what I've done with the left-hand side ones, is I've taken one of these off-cut pieces of plastic and I've glued them in with just a very small amount of cement. So as you can see there, they're just sort of glued on in various configurations. I wasn't really paying too much attention to how I was doing it, but the most important thing is that they're glued in at the base just with a small amount of glue, so they'll be easy to snap back off again. And then this gives me a nice handy construction. Gosh, I'm probably going to knock them off. I've only just glued them on, which I can then hold and manipulate with the... First I'll give them a primer undercoat, and then once that's done I'll crack out the airbrush and give them another coat of what I think I'm going to use. What I think I'm going to use is an anthracite grey, although I'm not 100% committed to that, but I think I'll probably give that a go. If it looks shit, then I'll go over with another grey, but I think I'll do that. They don't tell you in this model what grey to use or what colour to use, so based on the my ever trusty Messerschmitt 109 workshop manual, as you can see here, that's... oh Christ. There we are. As you can see, that's them there. They're kind of that grey colour. They're not rust red, although they would probably go rust red with time, but these ones are grey. And I'm going to go the anthracite grey. So anyway, that's the next job. So what I'll do is once that's it's getting later on in the evening here now. But once that's all, I'm going to glue these in to their little stick, and then tomorrow, once the cement is properly dried or cured, then I'm going to spray paint them up, and I'll show you how that goes. Before I finish the supercharger, I've also just done a little bit of painting on the supercharger, just painting a bit of the gunmetal on the screws or the bolts or the rivets or whatever you want to call them there. The inside of the supercharger here in there actually is, I think, it's kind of like a different color, like a sort of a coppery goldy color in there, and I'm not sure how I'm going to achieve that, if I do at all. Anyway, that's it for this part of this video. What I'll probably do is stitch on the next part on to follow on immediately after this, or do it as a separate video. Alright, with that said, I'll catch you in the next one, hopefully when I've got my phone strapped into the mounting as well, so I'm not shaking all over the place. Alright, until then, bye. Alright, welcome back. So, where are we? So what I've done is, since the last recording, I have taken the exhausts that I showed you in the previous clip, and I have gone over and I have given them a coat of primer as an undercoat. So I've done that for both sets, both sides. That's the left-hand side and that's the right-hand side exhausts. Now I've got my airbrush poised and ready, and I am going to use the anthracite grey to see how that looks for the colour. So let's get going. Now remember, when I do this, it's been a little while, so let's just test the airflow. That seems pretty good. Alright, then we have our thinner, and we have our paint. Now I've given this a good shake. First thing I'll do is put on, and hold everything in my left hand, so I'll put some gloves on there. It shouldn't take too long, hopefully. So what we'll do is we'll put in, actually I'll just get my little stirrer. Now we won't need much paint, so I'm just going to put, I don't have too much thinner in there, so I'm just going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put in 5 drops of thinner to, I might go 15 of the paints. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That should be enough for now. Okay. Let's put that there. Just give that a little bit of a swizzle. Okay. Just rinse that off. Alright, now what I'll do is I'll just try on some paper towel in the first instance. Okay, yep, we've got paint flow, so I might just put that there. I'll try not to get my hands in the way so you can actually see what I'm doing. Just not letting too much paint come through. Yeah, so it might be a bit thin. We'll see how it goes. Okay, now I just leave that to dry for a few moments and get on to the other one. There's still some paint in there. Okay, still a bit of paint there. Okay, put this one down. Whoops, 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 whoops. Okay, now I'm just going to give this one a blast of some air, just to encourage drying. I might put a few more drops of paint in. It seems to be running a bit low. Just another, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Quite like the grey. The grey is a good colour. The anthracite grey, I think that works quite well. For the exhausts, relative to the reference images that I've been looking at, I fear the paint is a little bit thin actually, so I think I might have put a bit too much thinner in at the end of the day, even though I did like a 3-to-1 ratio rather than a 2-to-1. So we'll just make this a little bit thinner, thicker I should say. Okay, now we just go over and make sure that we get everything is actually covered. Make sure we get the underside. Okay, now I think that's quite good coverage. Get in the inside the exhausts as well. Let's plonk you down over there. Pick this one up again. How are we going for paint? Ooh, running a bit low, but we'll give it a go. Okay, we've actually run out again, so I'll put in a couple of drops of thinner. And then, once again, I'll put in about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of those. Give it a little bit of a stir. Check that we got some flow. Yeah, we do. All right. Now we give these a get down the exhaust as well. Make sure we get the undersides. Alright, now I think that's... I'm just going to put the airbrush in here. I'll just bring that in for a bit of a close-up. So you can see that we've got pretty good coverage there of the paint. Now that's still wet, so we're just going to need to leave that to dry for a little bit. I'll just leave that to air dry. So what I'll do is I'll put them over to the side. That's good. Here. That's good. All right. So that's the exhaust sprayed up. So the next one will be to remove them from those temporary mounts that I've glued them onto there and glue them into the engine. Alright, now to clean up the airbrush, but I'm not going to bore you with that. So until next time, thanks for watching. Okay, welcome back. This is the last of 3 sections to this video. So just showing now the result of having now glued in one side of the exhausts. So here we go. Let's see if we can get a bit better light here. So I've now glued in the left-hand side into position after having plinked them off from the plastic thing that I had them glued into. Unfortunately, I did scratch a little bit, of course, of the paint off one of the exhausts as I was putting it in, but you get the general idea. I'll fix that up down the line. Do a little bit of touching up of the paint at the base as well, because the glue has made some of the paint run, but that's okay. So I've glued those in, and I think that looks pretty good. So I think that's a good color, the anthracite grey. So if we can get, see how close we can get here with this. Oh yeah, there we go. So you can see there, that's them. I mean, I might leave the scratch on. I mean, honestly, these things would be scratched and beaten up, so I'm going to give them a bit of weathering anyway, so who knows, maybe a bit of the scratching is good. So just to show you how easily they came off the plastic that they were put onto for the purposes of spraying, I've got the other side here. This is the right-hand side exhausts. And yeah, so as you saw, I just glued them on, but it's just a simple matter of just giving them a slight push, like that, and then they come straight back off again. So that worked out pretty well. There was no issue in gluing them on and painting them, and then no issue in plinking them back off. So now they'll be able to be glued in quite easily on the other side. So I think that's about it for this particular video, just showing the painting and the gluing in of the exhausts. So once this is done, then I've probably got the coolant tanks would then go on. If you remember if you remember these will be ready to go in next, I'd say. And then that's most of the engine done, pending just a few details, weathering, maybe a little bit more painting, just a little bit more work just to tidy it up so it's ready to go in. Oh shit, I'm going to be careful, I've just glued these in, touching them. Alright, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time.